Chapter 54. If there was ever a need for God's intervention, it seemed that now was a good time, or so Alter felt. When Sun Moon reappeared on the beach with a being that Alter could only describe as godlike, Alter nearly wept.
"Who is this?"
Alter asked.
He does not remember.
"He's one of us."
It seems so.
Sun Moon said.
He's agreed to meet with the dragons.
"Yes, well, I was sent to collect you and bring you to the Queen."
Sent?
Well, yeah, I was sent to bring you to them.
Why do they want to meet me?
Because I told her that you could stop time like her.
Alter immediately put her arms out.
Look, I had to say something in order to look like I was bringing her useful news, otherwise I would be dead right now.
Survival instincts make lies. I understand.
Sun Moon moaned under her breath.
So now the Queen sees a competitor that she needs to squash. Take us back to the mainland. I want to introduce God.
God?
Alter echoed.
It's his name according to Mapinguari. For me, it seems about right.
And for him?
He seems okay with it, but not really aware of what it means.
Alter took a long look at God.
So he can fly?
God nodded.
I can speak as well.
Alter and Sun Moon both chuckled.
"Give me a second,"
Alter said. Sun Moon glanced at God.
Just follow us.
Will you swim or fly?
God asked.
"We will swim. You will fly."
He tapped Sun Moon's shoulder.
You can fly too if you want.
Sun Moon beamed.
Oh, I would like that.
Alter was just beginning to shapeshift into a sea dragon, and then upon hearing the conversation between Sun Moon and God, she transformed into a seagull. Without saying anything or doing anything, Sun Moon began to float upward into the night sky. God's wings started to beat, and he rose up, taking Sun Moon's hand in his, and from there the three of them took flight. When they were close enough to the mainland, they could see the familiar fire on the beach, and they used it as their landing beacon. As their feet touched the sand, one who almost ran to them, his legs stiff, his gait uneven. But for him, he was running because what he saw was too amazing to remain seated, a flying werewolf.
How do you fly?
He asked, his head moving between Sun Moon and God. She nodded toward God.
He does it all.
And who is he?
God.
Oh, I see. We have yet another god in our midst.
It's just his name.
One who greeted God, not sure how to greet someone using that particular pronoun.
I am one who, chief of my tribe.
I am called God among those who found me.
God said.
However, knowing what I am here to do and who I will have to interact with, I believe a name change is in order. He smiled.
Yes, well, let's see what we can do about that.
One who said, showing them to the fire pit where everyone was gathered.
You made good time.
Oriel said, as they sat down around the fire.
Are they dead?
Alter came up a little behind them as she transformed back into her servitor self.
As for the time, tailwinds and God helped. As for the dragons, they remain untouched. We're fortunate to have escaped with our lives.
Who is this?
Joe and Oriel both asked simultaneously, Joe pointing to the strange yet beautiful winged creature.
Sun Moon, make the introductions, please.
One who requested.
This being was found originally by the Mapinguari, our cousins, who presently live underground in the palace of the royal dragons. His name is God, but only because he has amnesia and the Mapinguari dubbed him their new god. The name just sort of stuck with him.
She extended her left arm to God, as if showcasing him to her friends.
I am pleased to make new friends.
God said quietly.
I am Joe. I too was brought to this world with little memory of how or why I came here. But I did remember my name and a little bit about my previous life. It is good to meet you.
He bobbed his head and sat down. Each in their own way introduced themselves, and when they finished, They all sat down except Alter. She walked over to the fire pit where they stored the driftwood and grabbed some wood, tossing it into the fire.
This is harder without obsidian.
She remarked with a smile.
Okay, so here's where we are. The queen and king are nesting in a cavern that is as large as a mountain. Inside this cavern are mythical creatures that have been saved from the air dragons of lost eons. I have seen unicorns, gnomes, chillin, mapinguari. Everything you can imagine you can find in this underground mountain. Unfortunately, it was once the palace of the air dragons when they once ruled this planet. Now they have returned. They want to rule once more. They want their hybrid children to help them build an unbreakable dynasty. Their succession plan is our imprisonment. As we know, the queen is pregnant, so it is not an abstraction. It is simply a matter of weeks, and we will not only have to kill 2 dragons, but possibly 30 or 40. However,
Alter turned to God.
we have spoken with this new being, and we are convinced that his approach is worth trying.
And what is his approach?
One who asked.
I'll let him explain, but Sun Moon and I plan to return to the island and meet with the queen and introduce her to God.
You cannot call him that in front of the queen, or she will roast him before the word leaves the air.
One who remarked.
We know.
Sun Moon said.
With your permission, of course, I would suggest calling you. Wingmaker, after all, you did allow a werewolf to fly.
God nodded his head.
It is just a name. If that helps the mission, I am fine with it.
Good.
Sun Moon replied.
Then, tell us your plan, Wingmaker.
Wingmaker looked around the fire's perimeter at the expectant faces. He knew he was the collective hope of not only the creatures he saw, but the creatures they represented, which meant hundreds of thousands of creatures were somehow suddenly thrust into his hands. His plans.
First of all, you should know that I am without any memory of my past, other than when I arrived about 3 days ago to this planet.
His head tilted upward as if he were looking for a particular star in the sky.
It is as if I was just created and opened my eyes into this world. So I tell you this because I am not aware of culture differences or histories, or how one species views another. I am ignorant, which may seem like a deficit, but I assure you, what I believe is simply common sense and logic. My plan is to meet with the dragons, in particular the Queen, and explain that we have a council of the unaligned. Our voices need to be heard. If they are, then we will agree to continue discussions until we can find an accord and meeting place where the unaligned and royalty find a common understanding. An agreement. This agreement would enable us to work for the collective good. It would have unity at its base.
Solon cleared his throat.
Forgive us for interrupting. Is it possible that the Queen will not see an advantage in a common understanding and collective good? After all, she is motivated by increasing her advantage over the collective strength of her subjects. She wants one thing: more power.
She will have more power if she brings the unaligned to her table and harnesses their creative abilities to build more power. However, the power that is created by the collective will of all must be shared with all, including her progeny, her subjects, and her royal team. If she wants to lead the sentient life of this planet, then she needs to harness their creative abilities. It is the imagination, serving the creative process, that creates expansion. If this expansion is contained and channeled to the needs of a singular entity, it will not flourish. How can it? It is constrained. That which is constrained will not serve all. That which does not serve all serves no one.
Idealism is a wonderful thing, philosophically speaking, but it does not bear on the real-life situation we find ourselves in.
The whisperer said, speaking into the fire. It was his first time speaking without one whose voice. The whisperer's voice was soft, even and flowing like a river's light when the wind blew ripples across its surface. The whisperer turned to Wingmaker.
The Queen, you see, is not inclined to share power. Rather, she intends to share her genetics, her progeny. And in that sharing, hold the reins in her singular hand, deciding which way we turn, how fast we travel, when we rest, and why we seek our destination. Everything. She will decide. She will not listen to you. Before your logic can take hold in her mind, she will turn you to ash. Be very careful if you meet with her and tell her these ideas.
If she can turn me to ash, then I have diminished her power. If she will listen, I will have enhanced her power. I need time to show her the difference.
She can stop time.
Joe said.
I've heard this about her. It is an unusual power, to say the least. If she uses it against her subjects, then she abuses it. If she abuses it, the power will wane. It will not be effective in time, because time cannot support abuse. It is subject to disorder and entropy. It will result in a legacy of shame. And when we pass from this world to the next, that shame will follow like a shadow. It becomes the very thing that haunts us. I will explain this to her.
She will kill you before you can.
The whisperer whispered.
Perhaps,
Wingmaker acknowledged.
but given my status in this world, I will not stay without trying, and I will be willing to leave once that effort is made.
Soen raised their hand.
We are pleased with your perspective, Wingmaker. We also agree with the Whisperer's insight and advice. They do not seem to be compatible. One perspective is to educate the Queen on her blind spots with power. The other is to avoid her altogether and kill her. These are not compatible actions. Thus, we must choose. We choose to become part of the council of the unaligned and to have our voice taken to the Queen. If she listens, we may be able to forge an alliance over time. If she doesn't, then we will kill her. But at least we will have tried to bring our voice to her. We must try.
Joe nodded.
I agree. I come from a large country where citizens are treated like subjects of a larger whole. We are pawns in the hands of our leaders, and our leaders are trying to improve our position on the world stage. We are creative. We are not slaves, but we do feel like pawns. Disposable, fungible. One can only be part of the whole that is non-segregated. Once the whole is diced into parts, war can happen, injustice can happen, hate can happen, and it is all because the whole was diced into parts. Who holds the knife? Who decides how or even why to cut the whole? As soon as the blade touches wholeness, a division results. And in that division, I have seen how the imagination can be switched off. How power coagulates within and blocks the flow of creativity. Not in the individual, but in the society itself. I would want none of that here, lest the Queen finds herself alone, and in that aloneness, she goes mad.
Oriel nodded too.
I am on the Council of the Unaligned. I want my voice to be heard by the Queen, not as a dissenter, but as a creative force to expand power for all. The Queen can continue to rule for all I care, if she agrees to that.
One who turned to the whisperer.
And how do you vote, my friend?
The same way you do.
He nodded to one who, and then pretended to study the leaping flames, his face grim from knowing the alternative too well.
I agree with the others. We must at least try.
Sun Moon stood up gracefully, putting her hands together.
We will go when the sun rises and the moons have fallen into the sea. That will be our sign of a new day that may bring a new era. Let's trust that the universe will bring us good news from our efforts.
Oriel displayed her jewel-colored wings in the firelight and the moonlight.
I am worried about Hunter. Did you find out anything about him?
Sun Moon's expression instantly changed. Her mouth trembled slightly when she spoke.
One of the mapinguaris saw him carried out in one of Obsidian's claw feet. He thought Obsidian would drop Hunter in the sea to drown.
She lowered her eyes momentarily and then tried to sound more optimistic.
But he could have also carried him to some safe place.
Safe place?
Oriel echoed.
Where would that be?
Perhaps south to the Great Desert or north to the Icelands? I don't know.
Where would you search first?
Oriel asked.
The Great Desert.
the Whisperer said, interrupting Sun Moon, who had started to speak and then stopped.
If the black dragon was trying to preserve Hunter, he would take him there. The ice lands would kill him for sure. If his aim was to kill him, he would have just dropped him in the sea. If his aim was to preserve him, the desert. At least there, Hunter could be warm, find food and water, and possibly even other werewolves.
Oriole started to beat her wings.
Then I will go to the great desert and fly south. Good luck, my friends, in your meeting with the Queen. I intend to find Hunter, and once I do, I intend to bring him back.
You won't be able to lift him.
Alter said, with a shrug of her shoulders. Oriole looked at Wingmaker and smiled.
I don't have to. I just need to find him.